MLB Network continues their Top 10 Right Now series looking at the top 10 second basemen. So I'm going to bring you my list of my top 10, but let me know down in the comments your top 10 second basemen in the game heading into the 2025 season. So let's get into it. Now, coming in at number 10 on my list is a player that missed the 2024 season, but it is Matt McLean of the Cincinnati Reds. I think that when you look at what this player is capable of doing, this is going to be a tremendous talent in baseball. When you look at what he did in the 2023 season, this was at times an otherworldly looking talent. And I think that for Cincinnati, being a young ball club under the tutelage now of Terry Francona, Matt McLean is going to absolutely blossom. This is the type of player that Tito absolutely loves to deal with and to coach up. Going into the 2025 season, I think that taking a flyer on a guy like Matt McLean to jump into that upper echelon of second baseman in the game is a very easy bet to make. So for my opinion, in my wildcard pick on this list, I think Matt McLean is a guy to be on the lookout for in 2025, and that's why he makes my top 10 second baseman. As we get into number 9 on my list, it is Brandon Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a superstar level player, but the biggest problem with his game is availability. Being a player that has been less than durable in his time in the big leagues has been the biggest hindrance in the career of Brandon Lowe. I think that in 2025, we hope to see a more healthy season from him and allow him to really have his talent shine through. I think a healthy season out of Brandon Lowe really skyrockets him further up this list and puts him in the top half of the top 10 right now. But given what he does when he is on the field, I think that there's very little question that this is a player that deserves to make the top 10. As we get into number 8 on my list, it is a player that the Cincinnati Reds traded away from this position, and that is Jonathan India. The Kansas City Royals' new second baseman is, to me, one of the better second basemen in all of baseball. This is a well-rounded player that is capable of giving you production on both sides of the baseball, and when you look at what he is capable of, especially in a lineup that features Bobby Witt Jr., I think he is really going to maximize his capabilities. Jonathan India, to me, has been one of the more underrated players in Major League Baseball because of that ability to play on both sides of the ball and be pretty consistent. When you look at what the 2025 season is going to be for the Kansas City Royals, having a player like Jonathan India hitting either at the top end of their order or even at the bottom end to kind of roll the lineup over is going to be a guy who truly brings a veteran presence and understanding of what this league requires day in and day out. And being able to do that on a team like the Kansas City Royals, that to me is an up-and-coming squad in the 2025 campaign and a real sleeper pick, there's no doubt that Jonathan India is going to be a very big part of that. This was a player that was coveted by several teams this offseason, and he really made an impact on the Kansas City Royals, which is why they acquired his services. Look for Jonathan India to be a tremendous talent and really put himself back into the conversation as one of the best players in the game, not just at the second base position. As we get to number 7 on my list, it is a stalwart for me at this position, and it is Nico Hoerner of the Chicago Cubs. Nico is one of the best defensive second basemen in all of Major League Baseball, and a little bit of offensive production will put him much higher on this list for me. I think that when you look at what the second base position is, this is the epitome of that. A star player in terms of defensive capabilities, a guy who can run and hit for contact. This is what you would consider a prototypical second baseman. For me, Nico Hoerner is a guy who I think has all the talent in the world and a tremendous amount of upside going into the 2025 campaign. With more time and more at-bats under his belt, this is a player who, for me, is going to continue to progress and get better and find himself in a position where when he pairs the defense with offensive capabilities, I think that this is going to be a guy who really puts himself in the forefront of the second base discussion as one of the top 5. As we get to number 6 on my list, it is the new second baseman of the Detroit Tigers, Gleyber Torres. Having seen Gleyber on a daily basis as a Yankee for years, this is a player who absolutely can be frustrating at times, but also be one of the players that you pull for the most. Gleyber is a guy who really found his niche for the Yankees in the 2024 season, hitting at the top of their lineup. I think that for Gleyber, that really allowed him to settle into the player that he is capable of being in terms of what he does on the offensive end. This is a guy that when he is patient and looking and trying to hit the ball the opposite way is when he is at his best. When the Yankees moved Gleyber up to the top of the lineup, this is when he really found his place in the lineup. He allowed himself to be able to be the kind of player that we've always known he was capable of in terms of being able to work at bats, to be a constant threat at the top of the order. This to me was when Gleyber really found his footing in the 2024 season. Before that, he was kind of floundering a little bit for the Yankees, not knowing where he was in terms of their pecking order. But when he found his place to the top, he found his place in the lineup every single day as a consistent and important part of that lineup. Now, heading into the 2025 season with a very young Tigers team, I think that this is going to be a guy who's going to provide that veteran leadership, that veteran presence, and a guy that AJ Hinch can put at the top of that order and really allow him to filter out that kind of patient approach that he brought from the Yankees' top of the order to Detroit's top of the order. It allows him to really find his footing. Now, obviously, there is going to be the knock on the other side of the ball when it comes to Gleyber Torres, that defensively, this is not a player that is a tremendous talent on that side of the baseball. If Gleyber can become an adequate defender at second base, this is one of the best second basemen in all of baseball. Even with that being said, he makes my top 10 because of his offensive capabilities. I think that if he can find a way to work with the staff in Detroit to become a league average defender, which is not a dirty word, but if he can get to be a league average defender where he's not costing the Tigers a tremendous amount of runs year in and year out defensively, his offensive capabilities will make him one of the best in the game. As we get to the number 5 player on my list, it is Ozzie Albies of the Atlanta Braves. Ozzie has been one of the best players for me in terms of the second base market over the last several years, and while there has been some up and down, some inconsistencies, to me this is a guy who absolutely has the ability to rise up to the number 1 second baseman in the game type of level. I think that when you look at what he is capable of doing on both sides of the ball, this is a guy who can be one of the best in the game. I think that Atlanta faced a very down year in 2024 due to injuries, and Ozzie Albies was one of those players that really faced a ton of injury issues in the 2024 campaign. But going into 2025, you can have a healthy Ozzie Albies. I think that he can put himself right back into the conversation amongst the upper echelon of the top second baseman in the game. Now, coming in at number 4 is the new second baseman of the New York Yankees, Chism Jr. When you look at what Jazz provides for the Yankees, this is a player who's extremely versatile. You'd never really know if he's going to be playing third base, second base, or even in the outfield. But for the Yankees going into the 2025 season, second base is likely the position for Jazz. And when you look at what he is capable of, the power and speed combination of this player is absolutely dynamic. And when you think about what he can be for the New York Yankees, a stabilizing piece, someone who can elevate and push that lineup in terms of his speed capabilities, his aggressiveness on the base pass, it's something the Yankees lineup has severely needed. Having a player like Chism Jr. in this list is a very easy addition to me. When you think about what the rest of the players in this position are capable of doing, Jazz just seems to have a different blend, a different skill set. And obviously the swag is off the charts. But when you think about what he can be in the 2025 season for a New York Yankees team, we saw the way that he was able to kind of energize the lineup when he came over in the trade from Miami. A full season of Chism Jr. is something the Yankees can greatly benefit from, and I think that when you look at what this player is capable of and what I think he'll be able to do in 2025, for me, he's an easy top 5 finish. Now, as we get into the top three, we begin with number 3, and it is Marcus Semien of the Texas Rangers. There's no doubt about it, Semien has been one of the most durable players in Major League Baseball, and not just at the second base position. But when you look at what he is capable of doing, this is a guy who is a potent threat in the lineup. He's also turned himself into one of the better defensive players at the second base position. While he struggled mightily at shortstop for the Athletics back in the day, since making the move over to second base, this has been one of the more consistent players on the defensive side of the spectrum. I also think that when you look at what he is capable of doing offensively, especially leading off the game for the Texas Rangers, this has been an absolutely tremendous talent in the game. Going into the 2025 season after a down year in 2024, coming off of the high level of production in 2023, the Texas Rangers are going to be looking to Marcus Semien to really put themselves back into a position of success. Semien is a big role and a big player for the Texas Rangers, and given his success in prior years, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be able to help the Rangers bounce back to being one of the more competitive teams and in what is, in my opinion, a wide open American League West division in 2025. Marcus Semien gets off to the kind of start that we've seen him do before, where he is hitting home runs at a powerful clip and being able to provide a consistent level of defense for the Rangers, and there's going to be a new dominant player coming out of the AL West. Now, as we get into number 2, it is the second baseman across town, so to speak, Jose Altuve. The Astros' Jose Altuve has been a stalwart in this list year in and year out. There's no doubt in my mind that the diminutive second baseman plays his game much larger than he is. Obviously, there's all kinds of short jokes that can be made about it, but there's no doubt that there's nothing short about his talent. Yes, there was all the speculation and scandal from the past years, but Jose has been one of the most consistent players since he became a major league player many years ago. When you look at what he is capable of and how he is the spark and the leader of that Astros club, that is the player that they build around. One of the only players from that 2017 team to still be there. That in and of itself shows you just how consistent this player has been. He's the only guy that still lasts, that's still standing from that core. All the rest have gone, all the rest have been allowed to leave. This is the one player that Houston has exercised an extension with, and it is for good reason. To me, Jose Altuve, even with all the smoke from the past aside, is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. And when you look at his numbers and you compare them to some of the best second basemen of all time, there's no doubt this is a player that absolutely deserves to be at the top of any list when you look at the best second baseman. He comes in at number 2 for me simply because there's one that's just slightly better right now. And as we get into that number 1 player, it is Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks. When you look at what this player is capable of doing, this is a tremendous offensive force and someone who the Diamondbacks rely upon in a tremendous way. When you look at what he does for this team, as he goes, so do the D-backs. There's no doubt that the Arizona Diamondbacks second baseman is one of the better players in all of Major League Baseball, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated players in Major League Baseball. There's little question that when you look at what his talent and his capabilities are, this is one of the best players in the game. Being able to have that ability to not only be a consistent player in and out of the lineup every single day, but also provide consistency on offense and on defense, you know what you're getting with this player. This is a guy who early on bounced around from second to short to center field, but he found his home truly when he became the everyday second baseman for the D-backs. And there's no doubt heading into the 2025 season, coming off of a down year in 2024 after the height of reaching the World Series in 2023, the Diamondbacks are going to be looking to bounce back, and Ketel Marte is going to be the one leading the charge. But I want to hear from you, baseball fans. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings down in the comment section below on my list of the top 10 second basemen right now. Let me know who makes your cut. This is an exercise that I absolutely love each and every single year that Major League Baseball Network does, and it's something that really brings me joy. But again, I want to hear from you fans. What is your list of the top 10 second basemen right now? Let me know that down in the comments, or you can find me over on our social media outlets on X at banter_baseball or everywhere else at Baseball Banter Broadcast. Make sure you keep it locked in by hitting that subscribe button here on this YouTube channel and the bell for post notifications as we continue to bring you some new content each and every single week here throughout the course of the 2025 Major League Baseball season and beyond. Thank you once again for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.